The bus driver became angry when he noticed that nobody offered their seat to a pregnant woman on a crowded bus. In response, he stopped the bus in the middle of the journey and asked everyone, except the pregnant woman, to get off. The following day, he received a life-changing piece of news and was called to the bus depot. Can you imagine being pregnant and on public transport with passengers who refuse to give up their seats for you? Well, it happened to Emily Robson during her third trimester on a bus ride to her office. When the 29-year-old Milwaukee native boarded a busy bus, she heaved a sigh of relief as she spotted an empty seat. But here came the twist. A young man pushed his way to that seat, claiming it was his and already taken. Never mind, Emily sighed under her breath, wishing someone would get off the next stop so she could take a seat. But 2 stops later, nobody had gotten off still, and she was still standing. Emily's car was at the garage for service, so she had to take this bus to attend an important meeting a little further away from the city. Although she was on maternal leave, she had to be there for the event to submit an important presentation and couldn't afford to miss it. Poor Emily, who was already carrying a bag, struggled to keep her balance. The bus was overwhelmingly crowded, and she would bump into passengers as the bus moved. I'm sorry. She apologized whenever an angry passenger stared at her after she brushed them by mistake. Exhausted and protective of her baby, Emily looked around to see if anybody was willing to let her sit in their seat, but passengers simply avoided her or pretended they never even noticed. One could tell that the poor woman hated the bus journey that day, but she was left with no choice. A little over 10 minutes later, the driver suddenly slowed down a bit to give way to a vehicle approaching from the opposite side. The bus jolted to a stop, so Emily's bag slightly brushed onto the man who claimed the seat near her. "Watch it, lady," he yelled. "Don't break my head with that bag of yours." I'm sorry," Emily said. She removed her bag from her shoulder to switch it to the other. But the bus suddenly moved, and her bag accidentally hit the man's head again. At this point, the man lost it and looked up at Emily with an unkind stare. "Why don't you just stay home instead of hitting me with your bag?" he shouted. "Back off and give me some air to breathe. I'm suffocating." Emily was stunned and embarrassed. She looked around, but no one came to her defense. Instead, they grinned and even laughed at the incident. Suddenly, the bus slowed down to a complete halt on the roadside, much to everyone's shock. "What's going on there?" asked the driver, Reuben McKenzie, directing his attention to the man who insulted Emily. "I heard you yell at the poor pregnant lady. Didn't your mother teach you some respect?" The man was furious. He looked around and couldn't digest the fact that several strangers were staring at him now. "It would be great if somebody let the poor lady sit," Reuben said. "I see you're sitting on a priority seat. Why don't you get up and let her sit?" he told the rude man. At this point, the man lost it. He walked up to the driver and shouted at him, "Mind your own business, driver, and don't tell me what to do. Just mind the wheel, all right? Why don't you let her sit on your seat if you're so bothered by it?"
Also, if you've not done so already, please subscribe to our channel and click that notification bell to get inspired by these animal stories every day. Now, back to the story.
More people suddenly spoke up and teamed up with the rude man against the driver and Emily. "If she's pregnant, why did she take a cramped bus?" retorted another man. "Yeah, dude. Even I work, and giving up my seat would mean I'd have to stand for nearly 4 kilometers. No way," added another. Reuben was disappointed. He looked at how exhausted and worried Emily was, but he could do nothing to convince the passengers to let her sit. Then he thought of an idea. He turned on the ignition and started driving. The passengers on board sighed when the bus finally moved again, ignoring poor Emily altogether. Around 5 minutes later, the bus slowed down and pulled over at the next stop. Reuben turned back and saw that nobody was getting down. The passengers looked at him, waiting for him to restart the bus. But instead of doing that, Reuben turned off the ignition and got down from the bus, much to their shock. "That's enough. Everybody, get out of the bus," the driver yelled. "All of you, get out right now. Lady, that doesn't apply to you." "What do you mean, get out?" The passengers fumed. "We paid for the tickets. This bus isn't going further. Get out. I'm not driving until all of you step out," Reuben yelled. "You can board the next bus." "Next bus? You will be fired for doing this to us," the rude man shouted. "I don't care. My mom taught me manners and to be kind to people, Reuben retorted. She also taught me to put people in their place, so get out or I'll grab you by your shirt and throw you out. Left with no choice, the passengers got down one by one, except Emily. She stayed behind, waiting for what Reuben would do next. Miss, please hold on, the driver waved at her. I'll be right back. Please sit down. Around 5 minutes later, Reuben returned with a bouquet in his hand. Here, these are for you. I'm sorry for all the trouble you had to endure. Please tell me your destination and I'll drop you there. The bus is all yours. Emily was astonished. She couldn't believe the kind driver would risk his job supporting her. For the next hour, she enjoyed her ride peacefully, talking and laughing with the driver. While Reuben was pleased with what he did, he was called to the bus depot the next day. He anticipated having to give up his uniform and walk out, but then something else happened that moved the kind driver to tears. Mr. Mackenzie, did you drop passengers midway to take a stand for a pregnant woman? The regional head of the concerned bus depot asked the driver. What made you risk your job for a stranger? Well, yes, I did. I couldn't stand them ignoring that pregnant woman. On top of that, they were rude to her, so I had to step up, Reuben said. Do you know that could get you fired? I know, but it could have been anyone instead of her. It could have been my wife, sister, or even daughter, and I cannot stand them being insulted or ridiculed in public, Reuben added. Then he heard loud claps from behind. Emily was among a small group of passengers on the bus, and the driver turned to see her along with her husband and some others. It was then revealed that Emily's husband, Edward Robson, had recently been appointed as the regional head of the bus depot. After Emily recounted the incident to her husband, he wanted to meet the driver and express his gratitude. To Reuben's surprise, he was not only thanked, but also received a bonus and 2 weeks of paid vacation to Cape Town with his family. You truly deserve this, brother, Emily exclaimed, patting a teary-eyed Reuben on the shoulder. Following this event, every bus belonging to that depot was outfitted with seats specifically designated for pregnant women. A slogan reading, "Be kind to pregnant women and respect them," was added above these seats to remind passengers of the importance of demonstrating respect and kindness to pregnant passengers.